Many places that you go, you know, everybody's feeling squeezed.
Yeah.
They're looking at all of this change happening around them, change in jobs, change in healthcare, change in energy, taxes, all this stuff. And they're trying to figure out, how do I adapt? How do I need to change my own life, my own business, whether I'm a manager of a business or a consumer or an investor, whatever it is. You're trying to figure out, how do I need to adapt to figure out how I can operate and thrive in the changes around me? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, wow. The reason they feel squeezed is they have been squeezed. The last 10 years on the, I would call it the middle class, but it's really kind of the middle 80% of the country. So it's almost the whole thing has been squeezed like we have never seen for at least the period that we have economic records. As I said yesterday, traditionally, the broad middle class in the country's fate, economic fate, has been directly tied to how the overall economy was doing. So when the overall economy was growing 3% a year, median incomes tend to be growing about 3% a year. In the last 10 years, two things happened. One, the broad middle's income stagnated despite there being a boom. So that has never happened before.
I have to come back at you at that, because they were invested through their pensions in the stock market. They were invested in 401ks. They saw their valuations go higher. You can't really make a blanket statement.
I'm talking about their incomes.
Okay.
So then that would be an argument that their net worth was going up more, and might explain why savings rates were low. Is people could say, hey, their house was growing, their stocks were growing, so they didn't feel they needed to save. But I'm talking about
that's important too.
It is important. Okay. That's critically important. But I'm talking about their incomes from their jobs. Income stagnated over this period. So it was the first boom in U.S. history where the median family income fell by $2,000. And it's not just the person at the median. The broad middle class income stagnated. And while that happened, you saw the costs of several, what I call the 21st century version of the necessities. Sending your kid to college, getting health insurance. For a considerable period of that, the cost of gasoline and energy going way up, food way up. A series of areas where costs are shooting through the roof. At the same time, their incomes are getting smushed. That led to a squeeze, as I say, like we have never seen before. And that, I think, is why people felt really squeezed. It also meant no margin for error if anything went wrong, like, say, biggest recession since 1929. What are you going to do?
Collapse the
answer
value
was,
of your
go
home.
to your house. Yeah, exactly. Pull the money out. Uh-oh, house values, so the reason why people got into a panic was they were in a tough spot. I mean, and it wasn't a tough spot that just happened. It was in no way random. This thing was building up for 8 years, 10 years, and we got to that point. I think in terms of the adjustment, we've got to get the government's got to help here. The private sector's got to come back, because ultimately long-term growth comes from the private sector. It's not the government. We can try to prevent the worst from happening, but we've got to get the private sector growing again. People have got to, if we are able to do that, we can start moving the other way. Instead of squeeze, what's the opposite of a squeeze?
Expansion?
Okay, so we're going to relieve this squeeze. I think that's important. And then I hope that in the wider world, each person, if you're waking up and trying to figure out what to do for your own career,
what do I need to do as an individual, as a
ability.
business? What do I need to do to figure out how to adapt to this environment?
I think it's depending where you are in your career, getting as many skills as you can, being open to innovation, technology, across the board in almost all industries. You've seen tremendous productivity growth over 25 years. You want to be on the upside of the productivity growth, not fighting the battles to let's keep business how it is, right now, or how it was 15 years ago.
Look for where the jobs are.
Yeah, I think you got to. The good news is everybody is looking for where the government doesn't have to come down and tell you should go into, software programming, because everybody wants to have a career, so they're out trying to figure out where are the jobs, and they're talking to people, and they're seeing where business is growing. I think that openness to flexibility, which has historically been a great strength of the U.S. economy, over the next year, that's going to be increasingly important.